would you just tell us who you are and what you're doing here?
I'm Alan Mitchell, and I was lucky enough to come second in the with my music partner in the perform song, and I got a short story and a poem shortlisted.
Alan, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on all those prizes.
Thank you.
First of all, what made you enter so many Hammond House competitions?
Well, I started to do a creative writing and then a script writing course here at the university, evening courses, and I've been writing since I was 14, and I'm 63, and I'd never done anything with any of my work, never entered any competition or done anything, and meeting so many like-minded people who also have no friends at these different courses, and having a chat to them, I heard about Hammond House because obviously Ted and everyone, you know, a couple of the people that I met knew Ted and knew the situation, and also Anjali and Peter would talk about Hammond House and obviously trying to get people to go on to the creative writing courses, etc. And I came to the first one, 22-23, and thought, I've never entered a competition. I've never been confident enough, or thought I had enough worth. So I'll do it. I'll put something in, and I'm one of these sort of jack of all trades, sadly master of none. So I go across quite a lot of genres and quite a lot of different things creatively, and it just sparked something in me, the idea of getting something ready to hopefully have some quality and put in for other people to look at. And even if I didn't do anything, even if everybody said, no, it's not good enough to win or whatever, I just loved it. So I put in the first one for Fate, I put in a few stories and poems and one song, which came third in the performed song category. And then when it came round to time, I'm a melancholic by sort of humour, as it were, and so I'm always looking. Nostalgia isn't what it used to be, and all of that sort of stuff. So I ended up thinking, well, time is right where I love to be. It's one of the key central themes of my work. So if I entered it last year with Fate, I've got to enter it this year with time. So I got to, you know, several things together, and just I think I entered every single category just because I could.
Well, you've won awards in two of them. How do the awards help?
That's an interesting question, because obviously entering competitions and not having the validation of winning something can often make you feel debilitated and maybe lose confidence. I don't see it like that. I'd love to be a multimillionaire Playboy writer, but that's unlikely. So for me, knowing that there was this September cut-off date with the closing date for the competitions, I thought, I'm going to sit down and I had some ideas for a story. So I had 4 ideas for 4 different stories, and I thought, well, I'll just sit and I'll just start to write them, and I'll give myself 6 weeks to write them. And if one of them works, I'll put it in. Fortunately, I got to the point where all 4 were, as far as I was concerned, finished enough to be worthwhile. So I entered them all. And that spark, that catalyst, that outside influence almost of, you want to give it a go, you want to do something, you want to come to the event day and meet people and have a chat, and not network as in personal agendas, but just to meet people that like the same things that you do. I thought, well, this is what it's for. This, to me, is what it's for. Yes, I want to win everything, because that would mean that I'm not as bad as I think I might be. But in the end, taking part is such a powerful motivator. And having people, knowing that people are going to read what you've written and listen to what you've sung and created, and they're going to make their own minds up. And I still believe, and I tell a lot of other people, look, the same judge on a different day might like it or might not like it. And all you can say is that on that day, at that time, at that place, the judge either liked it or didn't. Doesn't devalue what you've done, doesn't make it not of quality. It just means that sometimes you're lucky and sometimes you're not. And I've been very lucky to be shortlisted a few times.
You said that you'd like to be a Playboy
Yeah.
Not too late, Alan.
No, it's not. I mean, Alan Rickman didn't start acting until he was in his 30s, so, you know, I'm just a little bit behind that, but there is still time.
And you said you're a jack of all trades rather than a master of one. Will you have that in common with Michelangelo?
Well, yeah, absolutely, yes. To have someone mention my name with Michelangelo, I'll take that. Thank you, sir.
Right, I'll do that.
I'll take that.
You're not as good at art as Michelangelo. You said you've been writing since you were about 14. Is there anything that spurred that? What gave you that urge to set words down on paper?
It wasn't so much an urge as a need. There's a book called Dibs in Search of Self by a person called Virginia Axline, who's an American psychiatrist, and she's one of the first person in the world to have looked at a particular lad, and she was the precursor to autism, to diagnosis of autism. And my mum started off as being a dinner lady when I was very young, and then she took a degree in social work. And she bought me this book that I read. Now I was 11, and it's a novelised version of Virginia Axline's work with this lad called Dibs, not his real name. I think my mum knew at that time that I was autistic, even before the word was being bandied about. I think she knew that I didn't fit in, that I found it difficult to talk to people, that I had a very gauche type of way with people. And I started to write poetry when I was 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there, because I didn't understand the world, and I didn't understand my part in the world. I didn't understand my place in the world, and I had no... my mum and my dad couldn't give me a grounding of what I was and where I needed to be in my life. So I ended up having reams and reams of poems. I'm reading them back now, it's sort of like, oh my word. But everybody's on a journey, and I've got, you know, to the type of stuff I write today by being where I was before. So I think it was therapy. I think it was catharsis. I think it was...
And is it still?
It is. It's it. Less angst-ridden, I hope. So I will see something now, just driving by or walking or whatever. So, for example, a recent poem was sparked because I was driving down a Grimsby road, and on a side road there were two white flatbed lorries, nose to nose. And the poem that came out of it mused on whether these two were kissing and whether they'd been parked there by the drivers knowing that they would look like, or was it just happenstance or whatever. Do you see what I mean? So, you know, that wasn't angsty, it was just, this looks very strange, you know, it looks like they're kissing. And a friend of mine, Sharon, said to me a while ago, she was on the courses as well, and we still meet up, and she said, it's fantastic, you see poetry everywhere. And I do. I never sit down and think, I'm going to create a poem now. I will be driving, sitting, thinking, watching something, and there'll be a spark, and there'll be something that makes me feel I've got to write.
Well, talk about the poetry, writing the sung-song lyrics. Poetry, it's difficult to distinguish poetry and music, as it were. I don't think poetry is not just music without the dots on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Noises. But you know, a song and a poem are very similar things, and the sound is so important.
There should one of the poems that I've written starts something like, there should in this be music, because to me I really have this feeling of you should hear it on the word, you should hear it on the air. You shouldn't hear it within the voice of the mind. It should reach you as a living thing almost. And you're right, song lyrics and poems are, you know, you could say almost interchangeable sometimes. I would think the thing with a poem is that all you've got is the rhythm and the pace and the music within the poem, rather than obviously the extra instrumentation and whatever other fiddly bits you've got to put on with a song.
You've been recognised today for your skills in writing song and in writing prose. Which is better?
Thanks for an easy one. That's really kind of you. Define better.
Oh, you clever sod. I'm not going to get into that. I just thought I'd provoke you.
Yeah, but they're very different. And to me, so let me put it in this way. A poem is born, as far as I'm concerned. Prose is created. And although you could say, well, creation, born, it's the same thing. No, it's not. To me, it's not. I will sit down and I will... So the thing that I got shortlisted for, Headshot, I had an idea for this particular story, and I started off with the twist in the end. So the actual finish of this, I wrote it almost backwards because I knew what the ending was going to be before I started writing it. So I had to have a way of getting there. So I created it, I left it. I always try and leave my fiction for at least a week or so if I can. And then I came back to it and I edited it. And I'm a bit of a Forster, sort of Ian Forster chat. He said, open up, don't close down, but open up, enlarge. So every time I rewrite something, it normally increases in length by about a third. And that's not because of verbosity, although, as you can tell, I am fairly verbose. Whereas a poem is, I look upon it as a slice of time in amber, a delicate thought that's hopefully caught somewhat delicately. Not always. And the one is designed to hopefully make you think, And if a poem connects with you, if one of my poems makes you a little bit thoughtful, fantastic. If it doesn't, even by that, it's done something. Whereas a fiction, whether it be a 500 words or 5,000 words or 50,000 words, it's different. So for me, neither is better. I write far more poems. I tend to write a poem every 3 to 4 days, whereas fiction tends to take a bit longer.
Alan, thank you very much. Is there anything else that I haven't asked that you'd like to add that I left out?
No, not really. I think I love being involved in this. I've loved meeting people here. I've loved people reading my stuff and thinking that it has some worth. So thanks for everybody that's read it and thought it wasn't too bad.
And thank you very much. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.